For most of our species' history, we were not the smartest thing in the room. We were not the fastest, the strongest, or the best armed. If you lived 30,000 years ago, you survived the night because something else was listening for you. Every predator on the continent could outrun you, outsmell you, and outlast you. And somehow, out of every possible ally on Earth, it was a pack-hunting predator with a mouthful of knives that ended up saving us. Not birds, not otters, wolves. Today, there are more than 8 billion humans on the planet, building cities, launching satellites, and arguing on the internet about whether a hot dog is a sandwich. But almost none of that was inevitable. And the uncomfortable, fascinating idea some scientists now take seriously is this: humans didn't just tame dogs. Dogs may have quietly rebuilt what it meant to be human. Nobody planned it. There was no committee that decided, let's outsource our senses to a wild animal. It just happened, slowly, in the dark, at the edge of a fire. To understand this, picture the Ice Age again, but from the other side of the campfire. Humans back then were dangerously limited: weak noses, mediocre hearing, terrible night vision. A human alone in the dark was basically deaf and blind compared to almost every other mammal nearby. And that's exactly the gap wolves filled. Here's the part that gets skipped. Once a handful of calmer, curious wolves started sticking around human camps, something started flowing in the opposite direction, too. Those wolves didn't just eat scraps and leave. They stayed close enough to react to danger before humans even knew it existed. A shift in the wind, a distant predator, a stranger approaching from downwind, the wolves reacted first every time. Humans who happened to have wolves nearby didn't need to be as alert, as fast, or as paranoid to survive the night. And the humans who let those wolves get closer, who fed them, who tolerated them near their children, quietly started outliving the humans who didn't. That's a strange kind of pressure. Evolution doesn't care about intentions, only outcomes. And the outcome was that humans who could cooperate with another species, read its body language, and build trust with a non-human animal were surviving at higher rates than humans who couldn't. Some researchers now argue that this early accidental alliance may have nudged our own social wiring. Tolerating an animal predator at arm's length required something our closest primate relatives never needed: the ability to extend trust outside our own species entirely. Scientists have looked for evidence of this shift in the fossil record itself. Human brains from this period didn't just get bigger. In some regions, they appear to have gotten slightly more efficient, with more space devoted to regions linked to social processing and less to raw sensory brute force. Nobody claims wolves single-handedly reshaped human brain, but once dogs were doing the smelling, the hearing, and the night watch, natural selection had less reason to keep investing heavily in those senses in us. The pressure shifted, and pressure shifting is exactly how evolution redirects itself over thousands of generations. Think about what that actually freed humans up to do. Less energy spent staying alert meant more energy for something else: sitting still long enough to make tools, teach children, tell stories, plan ahead. A camp guarded by a wolf-turned dog was a camp where humans could actually sleep. And sleep, real uninterrupted sleep, is when human brains consolidate memory and creativity. It sounds almost too simple, but a few less frightening nights, repeated across 10,000 years, adds up to something enormous. Then came hunting, and this is where the partnership really compounded. A human with a spear can bring down one animal on a good day. A human hunting alongside dogs who could track scent trails for miles, corner prey, and hold it in place could bring down animals that were previously almost impossible to catch safely. Some anthropologists believe the arrival of hunting dogs coincides with a measurable jump in hunting success in certain ancient populations: more meat, more fat, more calories funneled into raising children who survived to adulthood. A species doesn't grow its population by accident. It grows because more of its children live. Dogs may have quietly tipped that number in our favor. And then agriculture arrived, and the partnership evolved in both directions this time. As humans began to settle into permanent villages, dogs settled with them, and their presence changed how humans organized their earliest communities. Guarding grain stores, herding the first domesticated sheep and goats, patrolling the edges of settlements, dogs became a piece of infrastructure long before infrastructure was a word. Some researchers argue that the safety and stability dogs provided to early farming settlements may have made permanent settlement itself more survivable, which means dogs may have been quietly present at the birth of civilization, not as spectators, but as participants. And it's worth sitting with the fact that this entire partnership was built on food long before it was built on anything else. A wolf decided a human camp was worth the risk because of what was in the dirt around the fire. Every time you fill a bowl today, you're renewing that same original deal. That's probably why so many owners start paying closer attention to what's in that bowl. If that's you, the Complete Dog Diet and Homemade Meal Guide breaks it down simply. Feeding plans by life stage, portion charts by weight, a clear safe versus toxic food list, and 20 homemade recipes from everyday meals to joint support and allergy-friendly options. No special equipment, just real ingredients.
Link is in description.
There's also the emotional side, which is harder to measure but impossible to ignore. When a human and a dog make eye contact, both species release oxytocin, the same bonding chemical shared between parents and infants. That reaction doesn't exist between humans and, say, deer or rabbits, or almost any other wild animal. It evolved specifically between us and them, which means somewhere in our shared history, human brains rewired a little to recognize another species as kin. That is not a small thing. That is the same neural machinery used for raising children extended outward to another species entirely. Archaeologists have found ancient graves where dogs were buried carefully alongside humans, sometimes dogs that had clearly been nursed through illness or injury long after they stopped being useful for hunting or guarding. That is not simple utility. That is the earliest known evidence that humans were capable of extending care beyond their own bloodline, beyond even their own species. Some researchers argue that capacity, once it existed, didn't stay limited to dogs. It became a template. The same emotional wiring that let a human grieve a dead dog may be part of what eventually let strangers form alliances, tribes form coalitions, and eventually entire civilizations built on cooperation between people who were never related at all. None of this means dogs built the pyramids or invented agriculture. Humans did the building, but the humans who did the building were shaped in small, compounding ways over tens of thousands of years by an animal that decided the fire was worth the risk. A slightly calmer wolf, sitting a little closer each generation, changed what kind of animal we needed to become to keep it there. So tonight, when your dog is asleep at the foot of your bed or curled against your leg on the couch, consider the strange possibility running in the other direction. You didn't just domesticate them. Somewhere in the last 30,000 years, without either species planning it, they may have quietly helped domesticate you, too.
Once again, don't forget to check Homemade Dog Meal Guide. Link is in description. Thank you.